They pushed him for weeks, thinking he was just another easy target, until one night in the parking lot, he proved them wrong. Lincoln Heights High School was loud, packed full of the usual chaos. Students jostling in line for food, groups claiming their usual table, and the occasional burst of laughter from inside. Jokes only a select few understood. Zaire Coleman stood at the edge of it all, his tray in hand, scanning for a seat cause he didn't know where to sit. He'd do anywhere he chose would come with a price. It had only been 2 weeks since he and his family moved to Brentwood, Tennessee, a town that prided itself on polished neighborhoods, well-funded schools, and a community that didn't take kindly to outsiders, especially ones like him. At first it was the stares, then the small things, students acting like they didn't. When he reached for a locker next to theirs, whispered jokes just loud enough for him to hear, teachers pretending not to notice. When a book or two accidentally hit the floor behind. Zaire had dealt with this before, moving from city to city for his mom's job. He had learned that the easiest way to get through it, ignore, move on. But something about Lincoln Heights felt different. The air was heavier, the looks lasted longer. And then there was Austin Beckett. Austin was the guy who made himself known, the second room football star son, the kid everyone either wanted to be or impress. And he had set his sights on Zaire from day one. It started with a smirk, a casual bump in the hallway, to words dripping with fake curiosity. "Hey new guy, what's your deal, you don't touch her?" Zaire barely react. He knew exactly what Austin was doing, probing, testing. He just wasn't playing the game. But Austin didn't take silence well, and neither did his friends. That's when the real trouble began. Zaire kept his head down and stuck to his routine. School, gym, home. Nothing extra, nothing unnecessary. But at Lincoln Heights, staying invisible wasn't an option. The whispers turned into laughter. The casual bumps in the hallway became deliberate, shouldered checks. By the end of his second week, Zaire's books had been knocked from his hands. 3 times his locker had been jammed shut, and someone thought it was funny to scribble "lost" across his desk in permanent marker. It was stupid, childish stuff he could ignore, but ignoring only seemed to make them try harder. One afternoon he was at his locker, swapping out books for his next class, when he heard them coming. Austin and his crew, Ethan, Bryce and Logan, the usual tagalongs, the ones who laughed at every joke Austin made, no matter how weak it was. "Damn, you must really like that locker, man. You spent half the day standing in front of it," Austin mused, leaning against the row of metal doors. Zaire didn't look up, he just finished swapping out his books and closed the door. Austin wasn't used to being ignored. "Come on, you don't talk much, do you? Makes me wonder if you got anything to say at all." Zaire turned, expression calm, voice even. "I just don't waste words on people who don't matter." It was a simple statement. Not angry, not aggressive, just facts, but to someone like Austin, it was fuel. Ethan let out a low whistle. Bryce muttered, "Damn." Logan just grinned, like he knew something bad was coming. Austin's smirk flickered. He wasn't used to anyone standing their ground, especially not someone like Zaire. "That's funny," Austin said, stepping forward. "You think you're better than me, huh?" Zaire didn't answer, he didn't flinch. He just stared, unreadable. That's what got to Austin the most. The fact that no matter what he did, he couldn't shake him. "Careful, man," Austin said, voice low. "You keep acting like that, you're gonna make some enemies around here." Zaire didn't blink, he didn't have to say anything. The way he looked at Austin said it all. He wasn't scared, but maybe he should have been, because the games were just getting started. The problem with guys like Austin was that they couldn't stand feeling powerless, and Zaire's refusal to react had backed him into a corner. So he did what cowards always do. He made things worse. It started small. A spill in the cafeteria, where Austin's tray somehow ended up all over Zaire's hoodie. A misunderstanding in gym class, when a basketball hit him a little too hard in the face. Then the notes, crumpled slips of paper, shoved through the vents of his locker, filled with lazy threats and dumb jokes. Go back where you came from. You don't belong here. One of us is going to make sure you understand that. Zaire threw them away without a second thought. He wasn't about to give Austin the satisfaction. But the thing about bullies, when they realize their tricks aren't working, they stop playing. It was a Friday afternoon when things finally came to a head. Zaire had just finished a session at the Nashville Combat Academy, the gym where he trained every evening. He stepped out into the warm evening air, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, mentally going over his drills from that day. That's when he saw them: Austin, Ethan, Bryce and Logan, leaning against Austin's truck in the parking lot, like they'd been waiting. Zaire barely reacted. He wasn't surprised, just disappointed. "Man, you really don't know when to quit, do you?" he muttered. Shaking his head, Austin pushed off the truck. The usual smirk plastered on his face. But there was something different this time. A little less amusement, a little more tension. "You think you're tough, don't you?" he asked. "Think you're better than me?" Xavier let out a breath-tired Austin. "I don't think about you at all." For a second, it almost looked like Austin might let it go. Like maybe deep down he knew how ridiculous this was. But then he took that step forward, and Zaire felt it before it happened. The shift in weight, the tightening of the shoulders. Austin swung, and that's when everything changed. The moment Austin's fist cut through the air, Zaire's body responded on instinct. Years of training had drilled it into his muscles. React, adjust, control. He didn't just dodge, he slipped to the side, his foot pivoting smoothly, as Austin's fist met nothing but the heavy night air. Off balance, Austin stumbled forward, eyes widening in surprise. Zaire didn't wait. He wasn't about to drag this out. A sharp hook to the ribs, controlled, precise, just enough to make Austin stagger back with a grunt. The others moved, but Zaire had already shifted, planting his stance. "You don't want this," he warned, voice steady. "But pride is a dangerous thing." Austin let out a frustrated growl, face red with humiliation. He charged again, but this time Zaire was ready. He caught Austin's wrist mid-swing, twisted and swept his legs out from under him. Austin hit the pavement hard. A sharp gasp came from Ethan. Bryce took a step back, Logan's mouth hung open. Austin wheezed, coughing as he rolled onto his side, gripping his ribs. Silence. Zaire stood over him, not in anger, not in arrogance, just in understanding. "This was never about me, was it?" he said, voice calm. Austin looked up, eyes burning with frustration. But there was something else there now. Something Zaire had seen before: fear. The realization that he had never been in control. Zaire sighed, shaking his head. He should have felt good about this. He should have felt victorious. But all he felt was tired. He turned to leave, but before he did, he met the others' stares. "You can all walk away from this right now," he said, voice low. "Or you can find out just how bad it can get." They didn't move, not right away. But Zaire could see it in their faces. The fight had already left them. Austin had never been the toughest guy in school. He had just been the loudest. And now everyone knew the truth. But Monday morning would bring a different kind of battle. By the time Monday rolled around, the story had already spread through Lincoln Heights. High like wildfire, the whispers started. Before Zaire even made it past the front doors, he could feel the eyes on him, the stolen glances, the quick murmurs behind cupped hands. "Dude, did you hear he put Austin on the ground? I swear I heard he trains like a pro fighter, man. I wish I'd seen it." Zaire ignored it, just like he always did. But some things were harder to ignore. In first period algebra, Ethan and Bryce sat 2 rows behind him, unusually quiet in the cafeteria. Logan gave him a quick glance before looking away, suddenly very interested in his lunch tray. And then there was Austin. He wasn't in school that morning or that afternoon. Or the next day, when he finally showed up on Wednesday, he walked through the halls, different, shoulders stiff, eyes flickering towards Zaire, but never holding his gaze. The usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something almost foreign on him, restraint. No one said a word about it, but everyone knew. It didn't matter how Austin tried to play it off. The moment he hit the ground that night, the balance of power at Lincoln Heights shifted. Zaire hadn't just won a fight, he had shattered an illusion. And the people who had laughed at Austin's jokes, who had nodded along, who had watched and said nothing, now they didn't know where to stand. But not everyone was happy about it. Zaire didn't ask for attention, but after what happened, it followed him everywhere. People who'd ignored him before now wanted to talk. A few even tried to act like they had always been cool with him. Others, the quiet ones, started nodding at him in the hallways, like they were seeing him for the first time. But not everyone changed. Austin's old circle wasn't laughing anymore, but that didn't mean they had let it go. Ethan, Bryce and Logan still walked together, still threw looks his way. When they thought he wasn't paying attention, it wasn't over, he knew that. But it didn't matter, because the biggest shift wasn't in them. It was in Austin. One afternoon after practice, Zaire was heading to the parking lot when he heard footsteps behind him. Austin, he stood there for a second, hands in his jacket pockets, looking like he wanted to say something, but didn't know how. What? Zaire asked, keeping his tone neutral. Austin exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, man, I don't know what you expect me to say. I don't expect anything, Zaire said simply. Austin hesitated, then let out a half laugh, half scoff. You really don't give a damn, do you? Zaire met his gaze. Not about this. Austin stared for a moment, then looked down at the pavement. He wasn't ready to apologize. Maybe he never would be, but that was his problem, not Zaire's. After a long silence, Austin sighed and shook his head. See you round, man. He walked off, shoulders still tense. Zaire watched him go, then turned back to his car. He didn't need Austin's apology. He had already won. But there was still one last thing to say. The next morning, Zaire walked through the halls of Lincoln Heights, like he always had, head high, shoulders squared, moving with purpose. But this time the energy around him was different. People who used to look past him now stepped aside when he passed. Some whispered, some stared, and a few even gave him the kind of nod that meant something more than just recognition. But Zaire didn't need their approval. He had never fought for their respect. He had fought for himself. At lunch he sat at his usual spot alone. He liked it that way, but today, as he pulled out his lunch, he noticed someone hesitating near his table. A kid, maybe a freshman, small, nervous, the kind that people like Austin used to pick on, just for fun. He clutched his tray tightly, eyes flickering around the cafeteria, scanning for a safe place to sit. Zaire didn't say anything. He just pulled out the chair across from him. The kid hesitated, then slowly took the seat, head down, eating quietly. Zaire didn't need to speak. The message was already clear. Standing up for yourself isn't about proving something to other people. It's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. And sometimes it's about making sure no one else has to fight that battle alone. Because real strength isn't about how hard you hit. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to stand up for yourself? Share your thoughts below. Remember, real strength isn't about fists, it's about knowing your worth.